Donald Trump was back in a Manhattan courtroom again today as his New York civil fraud trial entered its third week. After observing testimony from witnesses, Trump then took his chance to air a wide selection of personal grievances, not just about this New York case, but also about the gag order imposed yesterday in the federal case involving his efforts to subvert the 2020 election. As part of that gag order, which Trump began to appeal, the former president is not allowed to make disparaging remarks about special counsel Jack Smith or his prosecutors, about any court personnel, or about any foreseeable witnesses or their expected testimony. It remains unclear what the penalty would be for violating this gag order, and so far today, Trump seemed to walk right up to the line, but did not cross it.
This is a rigged trial. This is a rigged situation. And our country can't stand these things. And the people of our country understand it. We're being railroaded. And I have other trials we're being railroaded. You saw yesterday where they take away my right to speak. I won't be able to speak like I'm speaking to you. And I'm not saying anything wrong. I'm saying the truth.
Trump, of course, remains free to speak to the public and, as you can see, to news cameras, as long as he isn't speaking about federal prosecutors or court offices or witnesses in that case. In other words, there are still a lot of people Mr. Trump can talk about, which was made clear today when Trump railed against New York Attorney General Letitia James, who he called corrupt and racist and used a racially charged epithet against. Outside court today, the Attorney General, Letitia James, responded to Trump's outbursts.
Mr. Trump may lie, but numbers don't lie. And the fact is that the judge has already decided that he engaged in repeated and persistent acts of fraud. And so he can call me names, he can engage in distractions, but at the end of the day, Mr. Trump, unfortunately, his entire empire was built on nothing but lies and on sinking sand.
Now, Trump has a busy schedule here in New York. In addition to the civil fraud case he attended today, Trump had to face questions under oath as part of a wrongful termination lawsuit filed by former FBI agents Peter Strzok and Lisa Page. Strzok alleges Trump's Justice Department wrongfully fired him because of Trump's public anger towards Strzok and his work in the Trump-Russia investigation. That deposition has not been made public, so it is unclear what Trump said in his defense, but he is expected back in court in New York tomorrow and back in front of the cameras, and he will have plenty of opportunities to tell everyone.